New York City at the top of the hour, every weekday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Fourth Branch presents discussion, debate, comment on political issues, current events, sports, entertainment, religion, education, science, and every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. for a full presentation on controversial issues such as blacks are Republicans dumber than Democrats, information which might irritate you, make you cry, make you laugh, but above all, will make you smarter. Join us every time. It is the right thing to do. It's the only way to keep your sanity in a world of chaos, hypocrisy, immorality, and deception. Welcome to Common Sense.
Welcome to the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. Thank you for being here. So this is segment 2. What we're about to discuss is so important, we have decided to combine segment 2 and segment 3 together. If you ever, for whatever personal reason you have, to shrug this program off or to simply not pay attention, today I encourage you. As a matter of fact, I beg you to pay close attention because it is that important. You may have received maybe the announcement that says the warning sign. And this is not conspiracy theories. This is not something we're just thinking about. It's something that we have been for a very long time, and every single day we watch the warning sign getting stronger and stronger, and we watch what could become a disaster for our democracy. And we're going to show you what happened at a time we as Americans were not paying attention, what happened to the country. But more specifically, this program, this particular topic we're going to talk about is going to be divided, of course, in two. However, instead of stopping in half an hour or so and coming back in 2 hours, make it a full hour. And we have to debate. We have to show you proof, historical proof, as to what happened when a citizen of a country shrug off, simply do nothing, or simply don't think that something catastrophic can happen to them. We have proof that we were there. We also have proof that the world was there before. And today we are watching evolving right under our eyes something that is really not something terrible that's happening, something that we think, well, how could that possibly happen in the United States of America? But I'm going to show to you that complacency is not an option. And I'm also going to show to you that when we confuse politics with something that's really very different, I would rather use the word fanaticism. When you're looking at politics and you're looking at fanatics, those are two different terms. Although today we are watching these terms being merged here in our country, and that's really the big danger that we want to alert you to. We want to show you what is currently going on, and we want you, the country, not to be spending time wasting, shrugging as if, oh, this cannot happen in the United States of America, but rather to do something about it, because failure to take action will prove very damaging for the United States, for even the world possibly. So please stay with me, and if you have friends, if you have people who are patriots, if you have people who are concerned about the state of affairs in the United States of America, yes, they definitely need to hear this, because this is not a joke. This is not some guy rambling around of things that can happen, that will happen, that could happen in the United States of America, but rather showing you the warning sign and to do something before those warning signs become a reality in the country. Okay, let's take a quick look at what exactly am I talking about when I say warning sign, and we see that is not really a joke. Since the presidency of Donald Trump, there are many things that have happened that others frame it as politics, and mostly the constituent, those who voted for and supported Donald Trump, think fantastic. That's exactly what we wanted, that's exactly what we needed, and we don't care what people say. And as such, as it has been known for over 2 years now, every single poll, every single survey has pretty much the same outcome, the same result, that all those individuals who voted for Donald Trump, who supported or continued, and he has pretty much around the same percentage of support and approval. There is nothing wrong with people supporting an individual. You see, yesterday we did something, that a parade to honor the fallen soldiers, people we sent to war to defend the freedom, the liberty, our liberty. And of course, this is something that's been ongoing since 1867, 68, maybe. That's something we've been doing, the parade on Memorial Day. We've been having that. In fact, was looking at the first one in 1870 in St. Paul, Minnesota, black and white picture of that. So for the longest, we've been saying that we have to honor those who fought for our freedom, who fought so that our democracy can be preserved. This parade is about, is to honor those people, that we call them patriot, we call them hero, etc., etc. But honoring soldiers with just a day of parade is senseless and useless if we continue to do things that put their lives in jeopardy, that require that we continue to expand their lives when they be able. What the hell am I talking about? Well, you see, today it seems like it's politics for Republicans to side with Donald Trump and for Democrats not to. Usually it is, because any country, any system of democracy, there are usually several different parties, and there is usually some sort of pulling and tugging among the parties. Here in the United States, the two major political parties happen to be Democrat and Republican. But something different this time, because the reason it is that different is because, number one, if we go to the source, we remember that we had one presidential candidate who did not see about inviting foreign entities to come and help him with his election. Now, everybody at that time believed that it was just pure talk, it was just a crazy individual who was just talking nonsense. It so happened that wasn't the case. That's why the Mueller investigation happened, because a number of other events occurred and it drove the country to, at least the law enforcement in our country, based on the way that our system is structured, to have someone look into it. Investigation aside, you may have noticed that Mr. Trump, the current president of the United States, has managed to remove all the guardrails of a democracy. First, he flaunts the Constitution. Completely have nothing to do with the Constitution. He's just completely ignore the Constitution. So whatever he does, he just doesn't care. But what makes the situation even dire is because, if you recall, the first 2 years of his administration, the Republican Party, both the House and the Senate, were in full control of the legislative branch. They went along and they never exercised oversight on the executive branch. As such, what happened? The executive branch gained more power, more leverage, and did whatever he wanted without anybody saying, Mr. President, this is the United States of America, and according to our Constitution, you cannot do that. Nobody said anything, nobody did anything. As such, the executive branch becomes the only governing entity branch in our government. Yes, we have a judiciary branch, but the judiciary branch does not come into the picture. The legislative branch were to appeal to the judiciary branch to do something, because you would never find, even if there were to be a revolt in the country, even if there were to be a subversion in the country, the judiciary branch, meaning the Supreme Court, the judges, would not say anything about that. That's not their job. Legislative branch has to appeal to the judiciary branch in order for the judiciary branch to rule or to give their opinion on something. For the first 2 years of the Trump administration, there was only one branch of government in control. That was the President of the United States. Now, you may not understand that, or you may not care because you are a Trump supporter. But what that means is, we had for at least 2 years which resemble exactly the same as any other banana republic, literally speaking, because the Republicans weren't doing anything that were I say that wrong. They weren't doing anything to exercise oversight on the executive branch. Now, you may call it whatever you want, you may try to spin it 1,000 ways, but the executive branch, if there is no oversight by the legislative branch, becomes the sole governing power in the United States of America. And for 2 years, that's all we had. Now, in the 2018 midterm election, everybody thought, oh, great. Now, the people decided to turn one of the chambers, the House, the lower chamber, to the Democrats. And everybody said, we are going to have some check and balances on the government. At least so we thought. Now, since the midterm election, of course, Democrat has been in power, been doing a lot of investigation trying to hold the executive branch in check. Now, there is a lot of talk, a lot of back and forth that looks like it's politics, but by any analysis, it is not. In fact, it's still the same system that we had before the Democrats actually took over the House. It's because Democrats are completely paralyzed, because the legislative branch comprised both Democrats and Republicans. And as it stands, Democrats won the House. Republicans as a whole, all of them, have done one thing and one thing only. You have a group in the Republican side that Donald Trump undermine our democracy, undermine our constitution. There is another group that's spinning information out so that the constituent can continue to believe that it's okay to support Donald Trump. There is another group that's fighting the Democrat, preventing them from doing the exercising oversight on the executive branch. So as it stands today, it's even worse than it looks. Although the Democrats have the lower chamber, the House, but no matter what they do in the House, unless the Senate were to go along with it, it's totally irrelevant. And in the meantime, Donald Trump is a part of what I have been saying. Donald Trump is selling weapons to government that the legislative branch doesn't go along, but he say, I don't care, I'm going to do it. Donald administration is waging war through a proxy, the Saudis, in Yemen, killing civilians, and the legislative branch said, no, you can't do that. Donald Trump say, I don't care. Donald Trump administration has issued a blanket refusal to comply with the legislative branch. That's what the Republicans are doing. Absolutely nothing. Now, I said all that so that you can grasp the next conversation, so that you see when I say warning sign is not just for the sake of saying warning sign, because there are plenty of signs that leading to something catastrophic in the United States of America. It's not politics, because politics is when you have two parties that are arguing over things that either for the constituent or for the country, but which does not in any way, shape or form undermine the very basis of our democracy, which is the Constitution. As it stands today, Republicans are helping, all the Republicans in the House and in the Senate are completely in sync with the executive branch, understanding what the Democrats are doing, and as such, undermining the very Constitution that we been claiming that we're trying to protect. Yesterday, the parade about remembering the soldier, the fallen soldiers, as I mentioned earlier, nonsense, useless, when we continue the very people that are supposed to help to protect the Constitution of the United States. Now the soldiers do that with their lives. But if nobody is doing anything in Washington, then we always will have to have soldiers taking their lives for absolutely nothing. This is not politics. When you have a political party working systematically to undermine the Constitution of the United States, we're no longer in the political arena. This is no longer politics. The legislative branch priority is to exercise oversight on the executive branch. All the members, Republican members in the House and the Senate, today, just the opposite is happening. They're not simply not doing anything, they're actually working to undermine Democrats for oversight on the executive branch. So we're not talking about politics here. We're talking about the Constitution of the United States. Now, for constituents, they may think it's okay. But I always ask the question, what would you do when the shoe is on the other foot? Meaning, when it's the Democrat doing something Republicans are today doing to our Constitution, would that also be okay? That's how you know whether what is okay, is when you can come to the conclusion that if it's done by the other side, you will be okay with it. If you cannot come to that conclusion, you know the support you give those people is against your own interest. Now I'm going to show you something that happened in history. And why, when I say the warning sign, they're not just any type of warning sign. They're serious signs of serious trouble. And if we keep thinking that, well, it's okay, that will never happen to the United States of America, be warned, because I've been screaming at the top of my lungs. What is currently going on in Washington today is not acceptable. It's not normal. And I'm not even talking about Donald Trump, because in the past, the United States had a competent president, I had the rogue president, and usually we have the legislative branch doing the job for which its members were elected. Today, we are in a very different territory. We have the executive branch running amok, and we have the legislative branch giving a helping hand, all doing one thing and one thing: undermine our Constitution. If that is okay with you, then maybe what I'm saying may not matter to you. But if your freedom, if the Constitution of the United States is of any importance to you, which I'm sure, I believe that it is, because every time that there is the argument about gun rights, the first thing that in general Republicans run to is the Constitution. They use the Constitution. So if the Constitution is that important to you, I want you to pay close attention, because as it stands today, members of the Republican parties, all of them, are working against the Constitution of the United States. And this is not just an expression. This is not just the word of some rambling guy. As I've been showing it to you, and if you've been living in the United States, you know 2 years Republicans did no oversight on the executive branch. That's their job. And if they're not doing that, they're not working for the United States of America. They're not working to apply the Constitution. So I'm not just saying that because I just happen to be saying that. We have evidence that's exactly what had happened. And now that Democrats are trying to do that, but instead of helping doing what they're elected to do, all the Republicans are working against the Democrat, against the Constitution of the United States. And you don't have to feel good about it, because it is not a feel-good exercise. Protecting, preserving the Constitution require the sacrifice of your political party. So if you're not doing that, then the idea of patriotism is something you just say because it makes you feel good. But this is not a matter for argument. When I come back, I will show you what happened in a predicament similar to what we have today, and what ended up happening. We want to avoid that from happening here in America. If you are a patriot, you cannot not be outraged, because this is not a matter of being Democrat or being Republican, because the very reason democracy survives is because of that very structure of our government. The minute that you don't have any oversight, then at that point, the idea of democracy of America ceases to exist. So if you are a Republican and you think it's okay, then you too are no patriot. There is no other word of saying it. No matter what you hear to sugarcoat, trying to go around to explain it to you, that's all it means. If you are okay with what is currently going on with Donald Trump, with the Republican Party, you categorically are not a patriot. And no matter what you think of yourself, you are not a patriot. Because a patriot is someone who would give or who would make sacrifice sometimes of his or her own life. Let us sacrifice a political party in order to preserve the democracy, in order to preserve the Constitution, in order to preserve the rule of law. So if you cannot do that, don't talk to anyone about being patriot, because you are no patriot. in 1945, we had the World War happen. Casualties, according to historical records, there were approximately 70 to 85 million people that died. Those were direct cause of the war. Another 50 to 56 million civilians that they attributed that directly, meaning when a bomb dropped, people died automatically, immediately. Those are considered immediate death. 50 to 56 million and 19 to 28 million kind of other type of death related to the war, whether people die of disease, non-treatment, maybe people were wounded, never get properly treated, and so on and so forth. In total, there were 70 million approximately of people who died in World War II. Why should you care? You see, World War II happened because someone made it happen. Now, contrary to some, there could be war that happened because of some sort of misunderstanding. For instance, well, I shouldn't say misunderstanding, because most war that happen, actually someone always caused it. World War II happened because Adolf Hitler made it happen. Adolf Hitler, not somewhat, not because there was some misunderstanding, but Adolf Hitler literally triggered World War II. Then again, why should you care? You see, we've been hearing a lot about Adolf Hitler, and people in general tend to shrug off the idea that there is any connection between what happened then to what can happen now. But I want you to pay close attention, because what I'm about to tell you is extremely important. Because it's one thing that you have this vague idea about an event, especially a tragedy such as World War II. It is extremely important that you understand how it happened, who caused it, and the circumstances around that. So when the name is mentioned, usually in passing, people have this, they know it was a bad guy. As a matter of fact, around the world, mentioning the name, that's the first reaction that you get. But if you talk to people about it, you will find that most of the reaction, that the only thing they know about Adolf Hitler, he was a bad guy, killed a lot of Jews, get involved in World War II, and that's the extent to which people understand that. That's bad, because it is important to understand the context around Adolf Hitler. Because if we don't learn anything from the past, then we are doomed to repeat it. Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany January 30th, 1933. Now, I'm going to spare you the detail from his childhood, but if you are interested, I would strongly encourage you to go to the People Branch YouTube channel. This is where you can go to get more information, because I did have a documentary that provided a lot of information about Adolf Hitler from the time he was to him becoming a cruel dictator. So I strongly encourage you to visit that channel. Now, January of 1933, Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany legitimately, and that's the part I want you to put Adolf Hitler in context, so that we can understand. When we talk about warning sign, we're not just talking gibberish. We're talking about sign that tells us that if we just not do anything, we shouldn't be surprised going down the path of Germany in this day and age. Because what today we think is impossible to happen, and I'm going to show you an example of something that we thought also was impossible to happen. So Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany January 30th, 1933. Legitimately, he didn't do anything outside the system of democracy in Germany at that time. In February of 1933, that's just 1 month after Adolf Hitler became the Chancellor, there was a fire decree that he encouraged the president to sign. It's called the Reichstag Fire Decree. Now, I'm going to read to you something that's extremely important, and I want you to pay close attention to it. Again, the Reichstag Fire Decree, it was really fully explained in that documentary that's in the YouTube channel, People Branch YouTube channel. The Reichstag Fire Decree is the common name for a decree of the Reich President for the protection of the people and the state. Issued by German President Paul von Hindenburg on the advice of Chancellor Adolf Hitler on February 28, 1933, in immediate response to the Reichstag fire. The short version of the Reichstag fire: there was a fire in one of the chambers. By the way, Reichstag and Reichsrat are equivalent of the Congress and the Senate here in the United States. There was a fire that broke in the Reichstag chamber. They never found out who did it up to today. Of course, they suspect, but they never found out. So Adolf Hitler used it as a pretext to advise, notice the word, to advise the president at that time, Paul von Hindenburg, to sign a decree. That's why they call it the Reichstag Fire Decree. But here's what the decree said. Pay close attention. The decree nullified many of the key civil liberties of German citizens. Almost the same thing that happened after 9/11. That a lot of the freedom that we as Americans had We lost that because now is in full quote unquote protection mode. So whatever they had to do, they would do, including preventing us from moving about, preventing people from saying certain things, preventing things from being printed, and so on and so forth. Now, I am going to read to you the most important article in that decree. Here's how it read. Order of the Reich President for the...
Where would you enjoy the delicious taste of Dunkin' Donuts coffee beans?
I'll be right back. We for the interruption. We were in the middle of reading an important article, which was part of the decree that was signed by the president, German President Paul von Hindenburg in 1933, February 28, 1933. Here's what it says. Order of the Reich President for the protection of people and state. See how on the basis of Article 48, Paragraph 2 of the Constitution of the German Reich, the following is ordered in defense against communist state and endangering of violence. Article 114, 115, 117, 118, 123, 124, and 153 of the Constitution of the German Reich are suspended until further notice. It is therefore permissible to restrict the rights of personal freedom, habeas corpus, freedom of expression, including the freedom of press, the freedom to organize and assemble, the privacy of postal, telegraphic, and telephonic communication, warrants for house searches, orders for confiscation, as well as restriction beyond the legal limit otherwise prescribed. Here's what that means in English. Once that decree was signed by the president, and notice the president, not Adolf Hitler. Once that decree was signed by the president, civil liberties in Germany cease to exist. I just read to you, which is the basis of democracy. You don't have freedom of expression anymore, even freedom of the press. Police can stop by your place for no reason and search the place. And there is absolutely nothing you could do about it. That's what the decree says. There could not be a small group on the street. If 2-3 people meet on the street talking, they could be arrested and plotting against the government. The government can open your mail. The government could listen to your telephone conversation. That's what that decree did. It was advised by Adolf Hitler, but it was the president of Germany who signed it. So when people are talking about Adolf Hitler, what they don't understand, Adolf Hitler could not have existed without help. Adolf Hitler had an inclination of being a dictator, but he could not become a dictator without some help. Now that was the Reichstag fire decree. Now that pretty much already kind of rights from people, because if you cannot stop, they can stop and search you. They can go to your house and ransack your house. They can listen to your conversation, and the press could not that wasn't friendly to the chancellor. Then you pretty much don't have any more freedom. Now you think that was bad? Well, later on, there was something called the Enabling Act of 1933 that was passed. And that was passed, the Reichstag fire decree was passed, signed by the president in February 1933. That's just 1 month after Adolf Hitler became chancellor. Now 2 months later, March 23rd, not even 2 months, but March 23rd, 1933, the Enabling Act of 1933 was passed. But here's where the warning sign you should pay attention to. Contrary to the Reichstag decree that was passed, signed by the president, just like here we have the president has executive power. Now, if Congress doesn't want to do something, or they think it's going to take too long for Congress to act, then the president can just sign an executive order for something to be done. Now, the Enabling Act was different. And the reason it was different was it was both the Senate, the House, and the Senate that actually passed it. That's according to the Constitution of Germany that ought to happen. Just like we have certain that, like we've been talking about this for the longest, like impeaching a president, that 2/3 of Congress, 2/3 of the Senate ought to go along in order for to be impeached. Same thing in Germany. So what ended up happening is the Enabling Act. Adolf Hitler managed to convince, within the boundary of democracy, members of Congress and the Senate in Germany, Reichstag and Reichsrat, to pass the Enabling Act of 1933. Now, once again, if you want detail about that period in history, I strongly encourage you to go to the People Branch YouTube channel and search for can we compare Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler? There probably are 6-7 videos worth of information that related to that topic. So I'm not going to dwell on that, but I want to make certain that you understand that looking at something similar to what had happened in Germany here in the United States. So Reichstag and Reichsrat passed the Enabling Act of 1933 and they sent it to the president. Just like here in the United States. That's a democracy. It works the exact same way. So Congress passed, Senate passed, and they sent to the president for his signature. And the president of Germany signed the Enabling Act of 1933. The Enabling Act of 1933, that's when they gave Adolf Hitler what they call plenary power. I don't know if you're paying attention. Adolf Hitler did not do anything outside the boundary of the Constitution of Germany. He did everything according to what the Constitution of Germany required. Much less than we can say about Donald Trump here. Because a lot of the things that Donald Trump has been doing and continue to do is completely outside the Constitution. In fact, Donald Trump has completely thrown away the Constitution of the United States. So when we were doing this comparison and people were shrugging off and thinking, how could we possibly compare Adolf Hitler to Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler? And you know what's funny? Adolf Hitler did everything respecting the Constitution of Germany. Donald Trump doesn't even do that. So when you're talking about as if because Adolf Hitler became a monster, we haven't seen yet the monster in Donald Trump, but that doesn't mean it cannot happen. Adolf Hitler didn't start as a monster. Of course, he had the monster in him, just like we're watching Donald Trump evolving right under our eyes. But for all purpose of history, following Adolf Hitler, he went by the book. He respected, to a large extent, the constitution of his country. The Reichstag fire decree signed by the president of Germany, just the way it is spelled out in the Constitution of Germany, at that time the Weimar Republic. The Enabling Act of 1933 passed by Congress, was passed by the Senate, was signed by the President, just as required by the Constitution of the Weimar Republic, Germany. So Adolf Hitler, contrary to what people may when they hear the name Adolf Hitler, they think, oh, he was a dictator. But at the very least, we could say that Adolf Hitler became a dictator, but before he became that monster, he respected the Constitution of Germany. Donald Trump doesn't even do that. But that's not where we're going. Notice one thing. The Enabling Act of 1933 was by Congress and the Senate, which gave the chancellorship plenary power. The key words: passed by Congress and the Senate, and plenary power. What does that mean? The Enabling Act of 1933 gave the chancellorship of Germany, led by Adolf Hitler at that time, plenary power, meaning the following. Adolf Hitler's office could do no wrong. And I mean literally speaking. If the office, it's an extreme example, but it happen to some poor soul. If the chancellor office were to decide that, let's say, someone did something wrong in Germany, there is no proof that the office decide, and the chancellor decide to have that person executed. There is not a single branch of government at that time that could question that. That's the power of it. That whatever that office, the chancellor office, did, it was okay. No one could question it, because everything that they were doing was good to protect the republic. Now ask yourself the following question. you have hundreds of members of both houses pass a legislation, an act that gave that kind of power to an individual. Just that question. How in the world you would have, and the reason I said watch closely, the warning sign, is because Adolf Hitler could not have happened without help. Give plenary power to a man for a period of 4 years that could be renewed twice. In other words, up to 12 years. During the time that Reichstag and Reichsrat, Congress and the Senate, signed the act, Adolf Hitler answered to no one. Literally. As you can see, Adolf Hitler did not become a dictator on his own. He could not have, because Germany was a democracy. But Congress and the Senate, those members that lined up with Adolf Hitler in terms of ideology, they did not see anything wrong to give that kind of power to a man. So when you hear people talk about Adolf Hitler was a dictator, it's the simplified version of the problem. Adolf Hitler could not possibly be a dictator unless Congress and the Senate went along with giving him power for him to become a dictator. And that's the part, every time I talk about Adolf Hitler, and I'm trying to show you what's going on in Washington, and that's what I want you to see. Because we can blame Adolf Hitler all we want, but let's put the blame where it belongs. Had Congress, the German, had Congress and the Senate not passed the act to give Adolf Hitler that kind of power, Adolf Hitler could not have possibly become a dictator. No matter how much it could not have. Take a closer look at the problem. Yes, we like to blame, point finger to an individual because it's easier to simplify it that way. Adolf Hitler became the because Congress, members of Congress and the Senate enabled him, gave him the tools that he needed. That's what I want you to take from that story. Because for the longest, the only thing people remember is Adolf Hitler was a monster. But how did Adolf Hitler become a monster in the system of democracy? That doesn't make any sense. How could that have happened? Germany was a democracy just like the United States of America. Has a president. They call the Chancellor a Secretary of State. A little bit with more power than that, because a chancellor like Angela Merkel in Germany, a chancellor pretty much manages the whole country, both domestically and on the international stage. But the president does have certain power, but you don't hear about the president often. In fact, most people don't even know who the president is. So when we talk about Adolf Hitler being a dictator, we'd like to point fingers to him as being the individual who committed the atrocious, heinous crime of killing so many people, so many Jews. But it did not happen just because Adolf Hitler overthrew the government. Adolf Hitler did not. Congress and the Senate passed an act that gave Adolf Hitler that kind of power. Literally speaking. So I want you to understand where I'm coming from. We will continue that conversation. Obviously, we have to, because this is too important. We will continue that conversation tomorrow when we return to show you that what we are currently looking at evolving right under our eyes, and we're shrugging off as if it cannot happen in America. Anything can happen anywhere if we, the people, simply complacent and don't say anything. The Congress and Senate in the system of government in Germany in 1933 passed an act, the Edict of 1933, which gave the Chancellor of Germany at that time, Adolf Hitler, plenary power, meaning he responded to no one, he accounted to no one, he did what he wanted, and no one could question that. But keep in mind, Congress and the city, that's the part I want you to keep in the forefront of your mind, because when the name Adolf Hitler stuck in your brain as being the monster, everybody forgets how that monster was created. Keep that in the forefront of your mind. This is the Fourth Branch program, the place for we will continue that conversation tomorrow, and we will show you what happened to even to the people who gave him that kind of power. Is the reason World War II will happen later. If you are a patriot, you cannot not be outraged, because this is not a matter of being Republican, because the very reason that our democracy survives is because of that very structure of our government. The minute that you don't have any oversight, then the idea of democracy in the United States of America ceases to exist. So if you are a Republican and you think it's okay, then you too are no patriot. No word of saying it. No matter what you hear people saying, trying to sugarcoat, trying to go around to explain it to you, that's all it means. If you are okay with what is currently going on with Donald Trump, with you categorically are not a patriot. And no matter what you think of yourself, you are not a patriot. Because a patriot is someone who would give up, who would make his or her own life let alone sacrifice a political party in order to preserve the democracy, in order to preserve the Constitution, in order to preserve the rule of law. So if you don't talk to anyone about being patriot, because you are no patriot. That was an update through the prism of common sense. Join us again tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. for presentation. I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, The Place for Common Sense. Send us comments, criticism, suggestion, or simply let us know how we're doing. Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon. See you next time.
The Fourth Branch podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website, located at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it has been. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York.